When the writing is going badly, you hate the empty page.
I'm in the Everyman Theatre with Mandy Redvers-Rowe. Mandy is a visually impaired writer, director and performer, and is following in illustrious footsteps. Pete Postlethwaite, Julie Walters, I don't know, loads of other people who I can't think of right now. And we've just seen the performance of Measuring Up. I'll ask you how that went in a minute, but got to ask you this first of all. Yeah. Like me, you're not a Scouser. How did you pitch up in Liverpool?
Well, I went to university here and I stayed. It's as simple as that, really. You know, lot of us have. There's a few people still from my year that I still know on the art scene here in Liverpool.
It's a great scene, isn't it?
It's a really good city to live in. I love the fact you can walk round and there's always music, and yeah, I just love this city. Yeah, I do. I chose Liverpool.
Yes, that definitely makes up for the disgusting sofa.
Yeah, but look at the cupboards though. See, so it looks like someone's tried to paint them, but very well.
Blind DIY.
It started with me in a tape measure, looking at how other people measured me, how I measured myself, all that sort of stuff. But we've got rid of the tape measure now, which has been quite a release, actually. From the R&D we did last year, we created this thing called Jazz Braille, where I braille and Craig plays music, and we sort of work together to create a scene. And I often speak the braille I type. And it's got to the stage now where I often don't braille exactly what I'm writing, but when we create the scenes, I do. But for performance reasons, it's not always easy to do that and to stay in time and to create something that people want to watch. But these scenes focus mainly on my writing journey, and last year at the R&D, a few people said, I really want to know more about that. And this play really is about my story of me as a writer, how I got, without trying very early on in my career, quite a lot of success really, working in comedy and doing sketch writing, but it was never planned, it just happened. It was one of those things, it all just happened. We wrote and performed, we went on stage, we did a bit of a tour, people kept booking us, and then the BBC asked us to work for them, and we did radio, and it just was so easy. And then a few things happened, and I suppose really what I've been looking at is what those things were, and suddenly I wasn't writing anymore, and nobody was calling me up and nobody was commissioning me. And the reasons for what turns out to be my writing block is very complex. It's not just one thing. I had children, my life changed, I had other commitments, but I really struggled with things like moving from being a sketch writer to a longer form writer. I really struggled with the politics of having something to say, and it was easy when we had no rights before the DDA, and it got less clear for me as to who I was having a go at from a comic point of view.
Wow! What a day! Thank you for getting us all to London, to the band telethon event. I don't think I've ever seen so many strong, angry, independent, disabled people.
The disability thing is quite prominent, and you were just about to talk about rights, and I rudely interrupted you. But I think we probably share a similar view, that since the enactment of the DDA, I don't think things have necessarily got that much better.
No, but we were told they would, and I think that was the issue. Most of us thought, well, let's see, let's step back. You know, to create an inclusive world, we have to sort of we have to stop fighting and just allow integration, inclusion, whatever, to happen. We need to see how it goes, and we all, you know, well, maybe not all of us, but I certainly thought, right, well, I can relax now. You know, we don't have to do demonstrations. We don't have to do much. We haven't got exactly what we wanted, but they've given us something. So let's see what happens.
There are lots of metaphors in the performance, aren't there?
Yeah.
Which are the ones that you really want people to take away? We had an audience here tonight of people who were quite clearly engaged in what you were saying.
Yeah.
What message would you like them to take away and maybe to pass on to their work colleagues, friends, family?
That is so hard to know, because that's not how because it comes from this point of me exploring my own personal writing block. And in that, because I've been working with this amazing team, great director Matt Rutter and Charlotte McRae, and just really digging down. I've had to really dig down, Tom, really dig down.
Oh, you have?
And go, what makes me write? What is it like when writing's going well? What it's like when writing is not going well? What have been those blocks? What has been the things that have unblocked me?
A lot of soul searching.
A lot of soul searching, and it's not a completely linear piece, although it mainly follows my journey. And we've got some metaphors like compass. The central table is a circle, and it's got my brailler on it, but it's also around the edge. It's got these dots, and it's got time. It's got Braille 12, 9 and 3, and it's got dots in between that I use for navigation. It's got north, south, east and west, and at times it represents a compass, me finding my direction or losing my direction, and at times it represents a clock, time when we return to the real. So it takes place in real time over one night when I'm blocked. That's the idea, and we return to those real time blocks, and the clock ticks, and I'm still not writing until the end. When
But you're writing now?
I'm writing now, yeah.
Absolutely. Tell me about the set, because you've gone some way to making it accessible and navigable.
Yeah. So I've worked with a brilliant set designer called Jocelyn Meals, and the first thing she did is she's worked with me before, but mainly when I was a director. So Joss worked with me years ago when I directed, and she was often the set designer I chose to work with me when I worked for youth theatre. Anyway, so she's a brilliant set designer, and what I love about Joss is I don't quite know what I want. I don't design sets. That's not my skill. All I know is I need different textures so I can navigate. So Joss listens and goes, first thing you need to do, Mandy, is put your braille at the brailler at the centre, and we put the circle table in. And suddenly, last year I did develop like a cross of AstroTurf that I could run around and feel, but it wasn't quite specific enough. I got lost once in one performance. I did correct myself, but I couldn't tell what direction, because the turf was all the same. I couldn't tell where the audience was, and I thought I always would, but I didn't, so this time we've got a cross of quite rough carpet, which is a textured carpet, but in between the rooms have all got different textures on, and it's not just a solid texture in each quarter, as it were. There are different areas, so there's a bit of a rug in the sitting room, and that means I can always identify where the cubes are, which is our settee, and they move into different things at different times. They become a bed in the children's bedroom, and we also have a big fight with cubes at one point.
Stop that! No! Stop! Stop! You stop! You stop! You stop! Well, you can stop!
I was going to say, it does become quite physical with you rolling around the floor without giving too much away. Is there a point when you kind of wonder or worry about knocking something over and really causing some damage to yourself or the set?
No, because it's blocked. It's very carefully blocked. Yeah. No, it isn't, and everything has been designed so I can do that. I can do it quite safely. The only thing that is a bit unsafe is there's a scene where I throw wooden spoons around, and again, I won't give a lot away on that. But I did hit a few people in the audience last night. I don't know if I did tonight. I'll have to ask. But
I don't think you did.
I tried not to tonight, but yes, I do throw a few things around, and the most dangerous is wooden spoons. I do throw paper around a lot. And the set ends up quite messy, which was always our plan. It's got thought bubbles on that I've thrown around, it's got bits of paper, it's got wooden spoons, it's got all stuff. And that's the idea, that when you're writing well, your house is very messy. That's the idea. It's as simple as that.
Just going back to the idea of you bearing your soul, if you like, was there any issues that you really struggled with tonight and thought, do I really want to be public about that?
No. What I've written, I've chosen to write about. So when it became autobiographical about me as a writer, that was fine. I wouldn't be autobiographical about me in lots of ways, and I don't know if you noticed, Tom, but we've worked really hard for me to not ever say when I lost my sight. We showed a scene where I was losing my sight, but it was mainly about my frustration of not being able to write write and see what I'd written, so how it affected me as a writer, how that sight loss became a frustration for me, and how the journey towards Braille had to go through touch typing and things, so how the frustration for me, because I didn't want to go into other areas of losing sight, but I wanted to talk about it within a context of writing. So I've just been very careful and very clear about what I did want to talk about and what I didn't. And I think that's okay.
You might be able to tell by the silence that people are lurking by the door. So one very quick last question.
Yeah.
How did tonight's performance go?
I think it was okay. I'm full of cold, which is a bit of a struggle, but I think it went okay. We had a lovely, lovely audience. I just got one line wrong at the end, which I fluffed. Well, I didn't get it wrong. I fluffed and had to start again, but hopefully nobody noticed. Because I'm a perfectionist, that was a little annoying. I don't know, how did you think it went, Tom?
I really enjoyed it, and I love the multiple layers of metaphor, I think is the way I describe it, in that kind of probably very stereotypical, cliched journalistic style.
No, but that's what we're after. Thank you very much.
Well, it's great to catch up as always. It's almost like we haven't seen each other for ages.
No.
It must be at least 2 weeks.
At least 2 weeks now.
No, I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Tom, thank you for coming. Thank you.
There's nothing else you'd rather do.